This is the Gen Y Leaders Podcast. Welcome to the Gen Y Leaders Podcast, where we guide millennials to become the next generation of business leaders and entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Eric Huey, and multiple times a month we bring you interviews from high-performing millennials who are challenging perceptions and changing expectations of our generation. Our mission is to help you overcome fear, take action, and go confidently in the direction of your dreams. It's time to start preparing now, mainly because 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every day, which will create a vacuum of career opportunities that you've been waiting for. Will you be ready? What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Today's episode is with Justin Ikerionwu and Muenfua Lewis, who are the co-founders of By Design magazine. By Design is a lifestyle brand promoting creativity and community. They showcase an authentic lifestyle for the creative in all of us. Now, successful brands don't just sell a product or service. They really start a movement. They are associated with a feeling, an idea, or a purpose. That's exactly what Justin and Muenfua have done with By Design magazine. In this episode, the fellow co-founders give us 3 tips for starting a movement of your own. Enjoy, and be sure to leave us a comment on social media with your biggest key takeaway. Here's my interview with the guys from By Design.
So, my name is Justin Ikerionwu, business development officer by day with AltCap, micro lender and a community development finance institution. We provide business owners, entrepreneurs with the access to capital that they need. I guess outside of that, I'm the co-founder and editor-in-chief of By Design.
Very nice.
Long resumes. My name is Muenfua Lewis. Daytime, I'm actually in syndicate loans working at State Street for our bank loans team. But other than that, I'm all over the place. I'm one of the co-founders for By Design magazine, serving as the creative director. But I'm also a creative director for a brand called Square Bear, as well as a photographer, brand strategist here and there.
Very cool.
So I do a lot of different things.
No kidding. Those are long resumes for sure.
Yeah.
That's exciting, though. Yeah, I can't wait to dive deep into By Design. So I guess on that topic, we'll segue into that. What's your why? What keeps you motivated? What was the motivation behind creating By Design?
Really, By Design was a culmination of a lot of different things. When we both got done with school, we kind of had separate experiences. We both went to K-State. But coming back, me as a creative doing photography, I met a lot of creatives of color through my just shooting with different people and networking. Mm-hmm. A common theme was that there is no uniform place and platform for them to not only get their ideas out, but to find opportunities to grow as creatives, whether they're doing it full-time or part-time or anything like that. So that was kind of one of the biggest motivating factors. I think back in school, I was always someone that definitely wanted to serve the community in a different ways, but that was one of the hugest things that motivated us and one of our biggest whys as to why we created By Design. And who doesn't like creating dope stuff with your friends? So,
very cool. Yeah,
that's like one of the big things.
It's a definite added plus for us, being able to work together towards a common goal. And like Muenfua said, I mean, earlier when he had reached out to myself and our other co-founder, Tony Henry, mm-hmm. who's actually since moved back to Detroit. He's still helping us out as the art director, but there was a very common feeling and thought that we're missing something. There was a feeling like there was a void in the community for a place where people just like us can feel comfortable to not only go after their creative feelings, but they could move towards entrepreneurial desires with like-minded people who are going through the same things, whether it be working a full-time job and trying to juggle your interest on the side, or whether it be just trying to, I guess, get the confidence to just go towards that, finding the resources and help for those things.
Yeah. That's awesome that you guys had that vision and to be so outward focused and community minded too, and to take it a third step for even further to even act upon it. I mean, I feel like a lot of people would have these great ideas, but it takes the courage, to your point, to step out and do it. So I admire you guys and respect what you're doing. It's really cool.
Appreciate it.
You mentioned 3 tips, and so I figured today for our episode, if we could just stay focused on those 3 tips for the most part, I think our audience would get a lot of value out of that. So sure. If you and Muenfua want to either take turns or go about it however you like, but feel free to take the floor and run us through these 3 tips.
Okay, I guess I'll start by ushering us into the first one.
Yeah.
I think that the first tip, when we talk about the community and the void that was there, I think having that understanding of a responsibility with your brand. I know that for us, when we took a look at the lack of representation in media, as we wanted to build by design, we understood that though we might not want to be labeled or pigeonholed or some of the other terms that you might use as a Black magazine, as a Black brand, we understand who we are and the responsibility that we have to the community that's around us, whether that's to put forth our best effort, to be very intentional with our brand, which is what By Design is about, making sure that we put the intentional thought and being very thoughtful with every decision that we make.
And with that, it's creating with intention. Yeah. So every time that we create something, it's not necessarily just to fulfill a personal void, but it's also to tell the stories and to capture moments that resonate with our community. So there's so many people that relate to some of the stories that we told, or many of the way that we portray our brand, which is really important to us as well. So those just phase in well so together in terms of like really being careful with how you portray yourself as a brand.
Yeah, very cool. So I guess to recap, tip 1 would be responsibility / intentionality.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. So tip number 1, anything else to add on that before going to tip number 2?
No, I think we can move forward
All right.
to tip number 2.
Right
I would
on.
say that tip number 2 in that and understanding the responsibility that you have and being an intentional thinker and moving with intention in your brand to make sure that things resonate. There's also going to be a needed understanding and a confidence in moving within some of the new spaces that might bring you, which brings us to being confident as a disruptor.
Yeah.
And being a disruptor really is being willing to go against the grain, utilizing a set of values that you believe in. And for us at By Design, we identified some of those values for us early. It was hustle, intentionality, community, as well as something as silly as like swag. But the way that we portray the brand is important to us, and identifying with those values allowed us to disrupt other spaces where those values weren't quite resonating.
Right.
And with that allowed us to open doors as well.
Very cool.
Definitely. And as being a disruptor in the lane that we're in, By Design being a lifestyle brand for creatives and entrepreneurs, it's one that's done through a lens that probably hasn't been seen, one that values style, that values intentionality, that tells stories deeper than the surface and wants to go a little bit under that and see what's really creating the drive and the motivation in these individuals who are out in our community every day doing amazing things and inspiring others.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, I think it's tough to for a lot of beginning entrepreneurs to have that confidence and step out and take that first step. I've heard a lot of people say that confidence and motivation doesn't come right off the get-go. You got to take that first step. You got to take action, and then motivation and confidence will come as a result of that. Can you speak to that at all? And if so, maybe walk us through what your quote-unquote first step looked like as a brand for By Design.
Ooh, the confidence grew. When we first started, we both had no background in journalism, print, any sort of those media platforms. So it took a lot of learning. It took a lot of messing up. We both kind of laugh now when we look back at our first issue. We're happy that we made it, but we're also like,
it was ambitious.
It was ambitious.
It was ambitious.
It wasn't quite us. But as we've grown and gotten better, it's become us. And I think our confidence has grown through just really going for it, honestly. We're scared, but we just keep moving. We keep walking off the ledge, really.
Yeah.
I think that it comes through genuinely and honestly putting in the time and the effort to learn what we don't know and being okay with what we don't know at the same time, because you're always going to run into these bumps. And I think that as an entrepreneur, one thing this week I read a article that was really interesting. My colleague at All Cap, Davin Gordon, had given to me. It was saying that there was a study that was done as far as entrepreneurism, and they took a target group and they split them into half. And in one side of this group, they gave them a list of books and more traditional training as an entrepreneur. And the other side, they gave them the self-help books that people say are cliche, but entrepreneurs love to read.
Right.
Well, at the end of this study, they saw that those individuals who had been through the self-help and were talked to in a way that built themselves up as an individual, they did better on their entrepreneurial journey than those who had the traditional training.
Wow.
So I think for us, it's knowing that, and it's a lot of conversations. On our way here, we had a conversation just reiterating to ourselves that we know what we're doing. We got this. Stay confident. Stay on the road. I think it's just keep putting one's foot in front of the other and keep going forward on that journey. Yeah,
that's awesome. Well said, for sure. So when you're taking this first step and you wanted to create a publication, I mean, was it? What do you feel like did you have the print publication in mind right off the bat, or did you want to do like a blog or just like a social media? Walk us through that kind of beginning first stage.
Oh man, we were debating a lot. I think print was always the goal, but
for sure, we're
also debating like, hey, I mean, we would compare other really talented, creative magazines throughout the country. One was solely on Instagram. Like, oh, that could be fun. That could be interesting. We thought, we started off with digital, so we didn't even jump into print. We couldn't even afford print, let alone know where to go.
We had to learn how to go about printing a magazine.
So it was a long conversation, but we started off with digital because it's really all we could do. But with any entrepreneur, of course, it's that important step of just taking the step.
For sure.
And that's what we did. We're like, you know what? We believe in what we're going to do here. We know we're going to learn. We're going to keep trying to learn. But we believe this product is good enough to start inspiring people. And as we grow and as we get better, it'll touch more and more people.
For sure. So tip number 1 was responsibility or intentionality. Tip number 2, confidence. Let's go to tip number 3.
I would say that tip number 3 kind of falls in line with where we left off with tip number 2 about just keep going upon that journey. And I think for us, one thing that we've seen is in what we're doing right now, as we're going along that journey, you're going to turn around and look and there's going to be people behind you. So I'd say tip number 3 is kind of accepting the responsibility again of being a trailblazer. Moving with confidence through that. Moving with an even more elevated level of intentionality.
Sounds like some persistence and fortitude kind of coming through in your voice, maybe.
Exactly.
Kind of being resilient with whatever odds you face.
Exactly. That's what it's going to need, because it's when you're going through the path that's been less traveled, there's going to be bumps that you can't go to other people to have that conversation about how to get around.
Exactly.
It's going to just take the confidence and the trust in who's the team that you put around you and just getting through it.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I think there's a big misconception of process versus event. So many people see the event, and you guys, publishing these magazines and doing it big, and people can be envious of that. Excuse me, but at the same time, they don't see behind the scenes, see the process, the day in and day out work that you guys are doing. So I think that's something that should definitely resonate with the audience as far as being persistent and getting your processes in place and just grinding every single day until you start seeing some outcomes.
Yeah. And that's really funny because our most recent event, Saturday Market in November, it took a long time to plan for that. But what was so funny is afterwards, when the community really enjoyed it, there were people coming up to us saying, "Hey, Saturday market next month, and we're like, no, like this took forever to do. Like,
it takes a little more time.
Yeah, it takes a little more time, but it's coming next year. Like, it's coming next year. So definitely echo those sentiments. A lot of people don't necessarily see the process behind what gets you to that main course, or like that main dish that you have to offer them.
For sure. Well said. One thing I wanted to go back to was, excuse me, what did you guys study at K-State? Because this is an interesting pivot to making a publication when neither of you guys had media marketing education.
I actually have a degree in finance.
Okay.
So from our business school.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And I did sociology at K-State too, so it was totally, I guess it falls in line with what we're doing as far as building the community and having an understanding of people throughout. But it's definitely not journalism.
Yeah, right. I think it makes you guys that much more inspiring, though, because, I mean, if you look back at your path, I mean, you completely adopted a new skill set and learned something and are executing on it. So kudos to you guys for sure. That's being a true entrepreneur. So now that we've recapped the 3 steps, and again for listeners, that is responsibility and intentionality, 2, confidence, and 3, being persistent, having resiliency. Yeah. So I guess thank you for those tips. But where do you see By Design going in the future? Where do you want this to go?
Oh man, we want to continue to grow as a media brand. We feel like there's so many areas and so many opportunities that exist, and we believe we can open up a lot of doors for the community as well. And I think that's what's really exciting. Whether that's developing our content and continuing to improve that, finding more accessible ways for entrepreneurs and creatives to access our content, to come to our events, but also just to continue to create on a very high level. We love to just create as well and push ourselves to create dynamic, inspiring concepts that get entrepreneurs and creatives extremely excited.
For sure. I'm definitely excited to see how things continue to progress.
Yeah.
To Muenfua's point, as we continue to move forward, we want to keep finding more ways and avenues and take advantage of the opportunity to work with more creatives and entrepreneurs throughout the city. I think that it's been really dope to see that we've been able to do that through the events that we've done, that we've put on, and working with some of the different entrepreneurs, local businesses, as we work and put these events together. So
for sure,
whether it's through the content that we continue to put out into the community, or the different media products through podcasts or music, whatever way that we try to tell the stories that we do, I'm excited to see how that continues to progress.
Definitely. What would be your major benchmark for success? How would you define that? Would it be making a profit from the brand, just making an impact on the community? And I don't mean to say just by undermining that at all. That's even probably more valuable than any financial gain.
I would say that not unlike any other business, the best impact that you can make into your community is continuing to be a viable and a successful and profitable business. That's what we want to continue to do on that side. And on the side of what we're doing in the community, of course, we want to continue to leave an impact. I think our brand is about that, and the bigger the impact that we can create, the more our brand and our business will grow. We're kind of grassroots, and we're growing with the community, and it's kind of cool to see from our perspective. So
for sure,
yeah.
And to add on to that, we want to be connectors. We want to be able to provide people with the opportunity to grow themselves, whether that's their own particular business, whether that's growing with us within our business. The hope is that as we develop physically and thrive as a business and impact the community, hopefully we're able to give others opportunities to succeed as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, again, respect what you guys are doing, and know you'll continue to do well in the future. As we wrap things up here, there's a couple questions that I usually leave guests or viewers, listeners with. One is, what books or resources have made a positive impact on your life or business?
No, I think one for me for sure. I talked to Muenfua about it. I guess the two. Ryan Holiday is definitely one of my favorite authors.
Okay.
Ego is the Enemy is one that had really helped me to look outside of myself. A big question that he posed in that book was to be or to do. And I think that that's really prevalent in everything that we do with the brand, with By Design. It's not really about us at all. I think it's bigger than us. As we continue to dive deeper into the brand itself, but into the business as well, the better we can put the business in position, the better we can continue to provide opportunity.
For sure.
The other one is stillness is the key. Trying to master your mental, physical, and spiritual domains as you move through life. Because there's a lot, especially with entrepreneurship. There's tons, probably 1,000 things on your mind each day. Kind of being able to move through those things smoothly is definitely important.
Yeah, great point.
That's tough for me because, and Justin knows, I read all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm a big, I have a question, so something will answer this.
Yeah.
But I think of a few things. One, I read this book called Powernomics. I forgot who it was called. I think Claude something. That was his last name. I can't remember. But really that shaped the way how I view community. I like to read different things that kind of change my perspective, and then I can apply that to what I'm doing. And I think that was a key book in terms of explaining social movements, how to really empower a community and move people forward. That's just one book that comes to mind. I've probably read a lot of other creative stuff. I'm a big magazine reader as well.
Cool.
So I'll always check out other magazines and see what's going on in culture. But those are the things that come to mind for me, definitely.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing. Then last question is, where can people best contact you if they want to check out the magazine or just get in contact with you for, business or personal advice?
Sure. You can contact us at bydesignmag.com. That has all our major emails on there. But of course, you can contact us personally at our By Design emails. I'm Muenfua, Muenfua, at bydesignmag.com. Muenfua on all socials. My first name is very unique, so
yeah.
It's nice to just have that.
Added perk for
It's
sure.
an easy search.
Yeah. Top of the list.
My last name's pretty long, so didn't think I want to use that for some of my socials. But if you need to get in contact with us, like Muenfua said, bydesignmag.com, at bydesignmag on Instagram. We're on Twitter as well. LinkedIn, if you need to reach out to me, it's Justin Ikerionwu. On Instagram as well, jjohn.i. Feel free to reach out through email, justin@bydesignmag.com.
Cool. Awesome. Gentlemen, thanks so much for your time tonight. Really appreciate it. And again, respect what you're doing. I think it's awesome. And have no doubt that you'll continue to succeed.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for having us.
Take care. That wraps up today's episode. We hope to have brought you some valuable key takeaways. Most importantly, whatever you learned, take action on it. Apply it to your life. Apply it to your career. Motivation and inspiration only come as a result of taking that first step. So if you're enjoying the podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe on whichever platform you found the show. You can also follow us on all the major social media platforms or contact us directly at genwhyleaders@gmail.com. That's GENWHY leaders@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm Eric Huey, and thanks for listening to the Gen Y Leaders Podcast.